And in the corner of my eye, I could see this kid putting his gun signs and, death signs behind my head. And I just whispered to him. I said, "Come here, man, come here." And in front of the whole 40 kids, I whispered in his ear, "You embarrass me in front of these kids, I'm going to bite your ear off."
My guest today is a man whose art doesn't just hang on walls. It breathes, it heals, it tells the story of Venice itself. From clay to murals to the spirit of community, William Attaway has painted prayers in the streets and left fingerprints on the soul of this city. He's more than an artist. Yeah, man. He's my brother, for starters. He's my true brother. He's a keeper of culture, a healer with color, a voice for Venice. Brother William, welcome to the Seano Show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, this is something else, huh?
Yeah, this is things are moving fast.
So let's just go back. New York City.
Yeah, I was born in New York City. My father was part of the Harlem Renaissance, and he was a writer, musician. And my mother was an artist. She came from upstate New York, but also ended up hanging out in those areas and run the jazz and the blues, and everything was happening in Harlem.
And for those who don't know what the Harlem Renaissance, I mean, it was a lot of things, shifting Black culture, but one of the things, it brought jazz to the world.
That's the truth.
Right?
Great writing, jazz, poetry, many, many other things, from ballet to all the arts. It was really a renaissance. It happened in New York, and it included a lot of other cultures also. It wasn't just exclusive to that.
And talk about the great coffee shop in Soho.
The Sage.
The Sage.
And the Sage was a coffee shop that my father and Harry Belafonte had, my godfather. And it was 25 cents for hash browns, 5 cents for coffee. This is when they were just coming up. And they'd perform there. They'd have poker games at night. And everybody'd be there, Marlon Brando. And, it was...
The real cultural hang, right?
It was a hang, and that's... My mother had a date with Harry, and he didn't show up. And so my dad took her on a date, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. The rest is history.
Or so they say.
And near New York, and then Martin Luther King is assassinated.
Yeah, Martin, Malcolm, and the Kennedys. My parents were around that circle, and being a multicultural family, it was things were happening just walking down the street to my mother with 2 brown kids. And my father just decided to get us out of there. And we moved to the island of Barbados.
When you were, how old were you then?
I must have been about 3, 4. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lucked out. I got the golden ticket.
You got the golden ticket, the Willy Wonka ticket, brother.
Man, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And so walk us through kind of some of those early years on the island there.
I was there in the 60s, so it was before television came in and lights would come on at 6 o'clock. The power would always go out. You'd get ice for the refrigerator. I mean, it was very simple. The radio played a big part. There was no toy stores. Christmas, I didn't know what that was. Halloween, no, none of that. But we played on the beach and we made toys. We'd take a bicycle rim and with a stick and run down the street with it, It was incredible. I mean, it was where we lived was a very, very poor area in St. James in Barbados when I first moved there. And there were a few larger prominent houses along the way. But my father would, if he bought something like a scooter, he'd have to buy 7 scooters because all my friends could have one because he didn't want me to feel or them to feel like they were lacking.
He was that kind of man. Right.
He was that kind of man.
Right.
But he bought all the scooters and all the kids took all the wheels off and made them into go-karts. So he was like, what the,
Yeah.
But we always made something out of nothing. And that was really a big part of Barbados. We'd make rings and Christmas wreaths out of casuarina trees, go sell them to tourists. We were industrious.
Yeah. You had to hustle even back then. Your mom said you're going to be a great artist. She called it in.
She believed in creative visualization. She bought me that book, when I came to America. But all along, she kept saying, "You're going to move to America. You're going to have a big studio. You're going to be a famous artist." I've seen what fame does. I'd rather just be successful.
Right on.
I've achieved infamy, but I don't want to be famous.
Yeah, right on.
But, you know, all the stuff, and she always supported me. If I didn't want to go to school, she'd say, all right, we'll sit and draw till the end of school.
One or the other, right?
Yeah, don't, you know, and then you can go out. And I always had all the art supplies. I had a pottery wheel right in our apartment, clay everywhere. You know, they didn't care. Like Marshall stack, my guitars. Once we stayed in the house, you know, I mean, you want to go drink some beer? No, you know, you're going to go drink beer on the porch. You want to smoke some weed? Just sitting out there on the porch so we can see you, so you don't get in trouble by the police. And you know, they came from a different era. So when we came back to America in the late 70s, they were still, you know, my mom would go rent the apartment before we got there because she was afraid that no one would rent an apartment to my father and two mixed kids. So we operated in they were almost like my grandparents in a way. My father was born in 1911 and my mom 1935. So they were miles apart, but my mom really was an old soul.
And you won the Queen's competition. Tell the audience about that.
There's a competition for art through all the colonial states that England had, you know, so Barbados was one of those. Barbados is not a colonial state from England anymore. But so all the kids would do art and you'd get chosen. So I won the competition to represent Barbados. And because I was born in New York City, it got sent back. There were some complaints, and rightfully so, by other kids' parents, you know, why is this kid getting, but that broke my heart. And I just decided I wanted to come to America, you know, and my dad was working in Hollywood. He was one of the first black writers in television and screen and movies and stuff. And so I took the chance, came here, and I fell in love. I went skateboarding at Marina Del Rey Skate Park.
But was Berkeley before LA, right?
But we came here first.
Oh, you came here first.
And then some things happened where we decided to take off to Berkeley. My dad was blacklisted, and he, you know, back in the days when they'd call you a communist. So he had a hard time finding work. He had to always never put his name on it. And he worked for a man called Brad Dexter, who was one of the Magnificent Seven. And so he was writing a film for him at MGM. And I got a job actually at 17 to be a limo driver. $3,000 a month. I could work till like 3 o'clock. I'd have to be there at 5 a.m. Great deal. First day of the job, I get there with my dad. And he says, sit here, it's 5 o'clock. Half hour goes by. They watch the screening of the film he worked on. And he always put his name at the end, but they didn't put it there, I guess. So all I saw was him beating the hell out of one of the Magnificent Seven, the security guards, the head of MGM. They're going at it. And I jump out and they all stop. He gets in the car. We drive through MGM lot, MGM lot, the streets are teeny. And he went through the security arm, right through it, spun around on Culver Boulevard, pulled into the first bar right across the street, pulled into the back. And he's like, he told me, he sat there for half an hour smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, well, what about my job? He goes, forget your job. These people are serious. They're gangsters, you know? And he's like, first of all, you can't tell your mom. I'm like, what about my job? My job. And anyways,
wow.
He disappeared for about 3 months, and they had some weird detective dudes outside of our apartment, and I got into it. I went and pissed on their car, and they didn't like that. They pulled out their stuff, and we started getting into it. My best friend's a black belt from New York, and so then when that happened, Brad and my dad got back together. They cooled everything down. We went to dinner. Still didn't get my job, but after that, my dad said, "I'm out. Let's go to Berkeley." And he started working up there. I went to Berkeley High for a bit, you know, junior high school for a little bit there.
And he had a little LSD experience.
Let's just say I'm experienced, you know. You know, I've been to Jerry Garcia's house. Let's put it that way.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah, I turned the pages of The Wind, and I always saw what was behind me when it was in front of me and all around.
Okay, but you saw the light. Something dropped in.
I saw the light. I didn't need to take any more after I took what I took. It was pretty large amount. And I was about 16. And 5 days later, I was still. And but everything opened up like a giant book for me, and the colors and the pages. I think because I was raised in Barbados in a peaceful place, I was for me everything was beautiful, even though it was like building and breaking down all around me and breaking all the norms that I knew. And I never really went back to school after that. You know, it was like I just hung out at school. I'd skateboard and draw on my books, and
then you eventually made it back here.
Then we came back to Hollywood because my dad said, all right, let's make some real money. I'm going to go back to work, you know. And I got into high school here, and I was, when I got to America, I was really far ahead. Schooling in the Caribbean is way more advanced than here. So I couldn't believe multiple choice. You know, my first question, I was like, do you realize that multiple choice, you could just guess it and you might have 65% chance of, I think it's somewhere around there. I might be wrong, but I just didn't pay attention. And that year at high school, they brought the computers in, and the computers, they said, well, if there's any problems with these, your choice of electives or your history class, your geography, please let us know. The computer gave me art. And I went to my friends and I said, this is an act of God. And I really believed it. And at the same time, I just found a little studio in Venice right here.
334 Sunset?
334 Sunset Avenue. And I had a little space in there for $100. There was all these old ladies there, and I'd be blasting my Bob Marley, you know, they'd be like, going nuts. But after missing about 150 days of school and going to the art class, probably 2 of the classes, the art teacher was great. He was the head of the art department at Yale, also means not Yale, at UCLA. And so he could see my potential. I'd do his project and he'd let me just do whatever I want in the class. And he started noticing I was there all day. He says, what about your other classes? And I said, look at the card. I saved it. I put it away. I mean, this is an act of God. He says, you're going to get me in trouble. And then right then the principal came in and the whole thing went down.
Got a little funky.
So it was about 150 days I was behind. And the principal said, I want your father to come in. And so I had to tell my dad. I took him to the studio in Venice, and he was not happy. He was one of the first blacks to go to
He didn't know about the studio?
No, no one knew. No one knew. My friend Brian Scheller and I moved in there, and it was amazing, you know, a learning experience for me because I knew really little about ceramics. But he saw what I was doing, and he was just, he was one of the first blacks to go to Illinois State. He really believed in higher education, you know, and, you know, we'd work on Latin together. And it wasn't good for me. I didn't love mathematics. I didn't, you know, I'm quicker with other things. And so we went and saw the principal afterwards, and he didn't speak at all. And we went in, and I had long nappy dreadlocks at the time, you know, and I would go to school. Let's just say I would go to school to do business sometimes. Let's put it nicely, okay? And the principal was sort of onto it, me. And he just told my dad, he says, he's hanging out with the wrong people, and we believe this and we believe that. And my dad looked at him and he just says, fuck you. How dare you speak to my son, you know? So, and he knew how much I partied. You know, we were lightweights. We'd go to a Grateful Dead show. Yeah, at that time, yeah. It was building. The storm was
just starting then. That's a good reference point.
He says, you know, my son's been down here making pottery, you know, and God damn it, he's going to take the GED. He doesn't need your school. If that's how you speak to your students, you know. And I smiled. My dad says, don't you smile at all. So we went outside. He asked me how much the rent was. I said, it's $100. He said, I got it covered. You're going to take the GED and blah. So I guess that year I was going to take the GED, and Bob Marley came in town at Royce Hall. I think it was in UCLA, somewhere, one of those venues there. And I did a little bit more of the psychedelic thing, you know. And that next day, the morning I slept in the geodesic dome at UCLA, and I woke up to go take the test. There was 300 kids in the auditorium. I went down and got my paperwork, and I'm looking at it, and I got my pens out, and I just drew over every page. No lie. I drew over every page.
I fucking love that, man.
about 45 minutes into it, finished. I'm like, and the people are looking at me and they're like, oh my God. I walked down to him.
Because there's a part of you just didn't give up.
I swear it wasn't even that. I just was on a path. I just knew.
You knew.
I really believed that this
is irrelevant.
I went down there and I smiled at him and he goes, what is this? And I go, it's an act of God.
Yeah.
And I walked out. and so my dad was going through some serious health issues. Cancer was just starting to hit him. And so I just put it on the back. I put it away. And when the paperwork came, I saw, of course I failed. I just told him, I passed flying colors. And he goes, well, where is it? I said, it's at the studio. I'll bring it back. And they forgot.
Yeah.
It never got mentioned again. And so from that point on, I was full time at the studio. I started doing like the Compton swap meet. I'd go to Westwood Art Show next and then the Beverly Hills Art Show. And I won all the awards at the Beverly Hills Art Show.
And I want to interrupt you. And I think it's extraordinary to think of like a 17-year-old in Venice, but fully committed to making art. It's really powerful, man.
We worked for 3 days straight. You were
really in it.
We go to Zookie's at like 3 a.m. and we'd have cash in our hands, and we were really pretty sober about our business and everything, I had no clue,
I want to tell a great story, and there's so many to tell, buddy. When you break into UCLA.
Yep.
Tell the audience about that story. It's so good.
So we lived around UCLA. So that was our playground for skateboarding and everything. We found this geodesic dome that you could go in there and hang out and sleep at night. Security was very lax. And so we broke into the pool area. This is before the cameras and all that stuff. And we'd climb in and we'd swim all night and play. And then I found the ceramic department. I forgot to tell you, my grandmother moved to Barbados. She was a very eccentric old lady. She was very abusive to my mom. She would take her to France and lock her in a closet and put a plate on the table while she was going out dancing with Charlie Chaplin. I mean, she was very exotic, 1920s, like serious.
Wow.
Came from the money, upstate New York. And Grandma Titi was her name. And she'd do snuff, and she had a 30-year-old Rastaman boyfriend. I'd never seen dreadlocks. This is in Barbados, So she bought this house, a ceramic studio on Chalky Mountain in Barbados. And it's been there for 500 years almost. And so there's only these old black potters, and this white lady comes down there who they call the witch. And she did look like a witch. I tell you, she scared me. I didn't let her touch me. I didn't let her near me. Grandma Titi, my mom would get there and go inside, and I could smell the old milk and all the food. She died from that eventually. But I'd go sit in the kilns that were cut right into the mountainside with these old men. They'd be playing dominoes in there. And they said, boy, listen, your grandmother's a witch, man. And I'm like, yeah, I know. He goes, well, why don't you go in there? I said, it smells bad. I could smell it from all the way out here, But this rich lady, she died from drinking old stuff. And she left me the pottery studio and my sister. And so my mom, not thinking of it, she said, well, we're going to move back to America. Why don't we sell the place and we could take a cruise? And I was like, yeah, take a cruise. If I had known now, I go to the studio, it's still there, and it's a beautiful tourist attraction. There's a lot of pottery going on, but it breaks my heart that I don't have that connection. So I always had ceramics in my mind, And so I got into the UCLA department. I got my own locker. And then finally, there's no teachers really. These are like that. I found that the guys who came at night and the women who came at night, they were advanced. So I was just making a mess. I didn't know what I was doing, And this teacher comes in and goes, what are you doing here? It's late. It's like 9 o'clock, And I said, I'm an exchange student from the Caribbean. And he's just like, what? He goes, where's, I said, my mother dropped me off. She's going to be back in a little bit. And then so like the next time I came in, he was like, he wanted to meet my mom, And then the security guard who saw me one night coming out of the pool area said, no, I know this kid. He's always around the campus, right? So I took off, never went back, skateboarded down all the steps, went back. I don't know what happened, but flashed to 25 years later, I'm teaching at that class.
You're teaching that class,
yeah,
right?
I'm telling a story, it was actually a group of students came to my studio in Venice. So I after showing them all my stuff, I flashed back to the story, and I got them. The teacher everyone was laughing, but yeah, I was always interested in ceramics. So the studio was booming, and Brian Scheller and I just our pots started growing. I mean, my pots went from little cups to pots that were 7 feet tall, 1,000 pounds, and having to use a torch to even get them to stand up, and inventing our own ways of making large scale ceramics that nobody was doing.
You were all self-taught, basically,
yeah,
right?
Self-taught.
All self-taught, right?
Self-taught,
which is extraordinary.
Everything. Yeah.
Right? Self-taught. Talk about Larry Albright.
Larry Albright, we shared the studio together, and he was an amazing glass artist. He's the one who did most of the stuff for Star Wars, and really gave it that authentic look, the original Star Wars. And he also designed that Tesla ball that came out in the 80s that you could buy, and your kids could put the hands on it, and electricity would go and shock. And it wouldn't shock you, but he had one of those giant in the studio. And when you'd come in there, all of a sudden he'd make it crack, and it was like the ground, or it was like the world was tearing apart. And this flash would go across the studio, and he had glass pipes everywhere, like 10 foot long. And it was, he eventually got another studio. So that became his supply area, and he'd store stuff there, and that's where I had my big kilns out back. And that was an interesting time, and I was really flourishing then. I was doing a lot of work started working for hotels, and, I won pretty much every award at the Beverly Hills Art Show, and I was getting a lot of accolade. I was doing pretty well. I had just done a show. I was dear friends with, well, what happened was we started applying for the metros. That's what happened. And so I applied to do a metro station in Pomona and I applied for Glendale, and I won both at the same time. And no one had ever won both. So I had to decide. I took the one station in Pomona. Thank you. And I got it all set up and done, but the city didn't finalize the concrete around it, and that actually deteriorated and fell down. And that was heartbreaking because it happened right when I was doing the column on the Venice Boardwalk. And I had learned a lot of things, what to do and what not to do from the Pomona station. And at the same time, when I was doing all that, I was living at Elizabeth Montgomery's house from Bewitched, the TV show. Yeah, her son, William Asher, got me into clay, and I got him into guitars, and now he's a great guitar maker, and I'm doing what I'm doing. But anytime we'd win a project, she'd take us to Mr. Chow's, and we'd sit in there, and I'd look at Basquiat's drawings, and Mr. Chow, he'd say, "Oh, here's your page," and I'd draw on it, and I think I had a tab there for a year. I could just go once a week and eat at Chow's, so I could feel, she'd tell me the same thing, you're going to be big, you're going to be big. But at the same time, I was dabbling in a lot of other things, and right about the time I got Lizzie's agent, Barry Cross, he was the agent for all the big stars, took me on. And I don't know what to do with art. Well, I'll get you a show. And he got me a show with Bryce Martin. I didn't know who he was. He's a big time artist in New York or something. And down the road, Basquiat was showing. It was on Melrose. But I was already dipping into, things that probably weren't good for me. I got introduced to cocaine, and by the time I was 17, I was full blown, I was always working alone. So no one ever saw it, but I was very, very quiet about it. And right about then, I think, I remember at the show, Bryce Martin's show, Bryce said to me, he goes, "You want to go meet Basquiat?" And I'm like, "Who?" I didn't know who he was, and I just wanted to get back to the studio because I had a big pink rock there, and I did. I went back, and within that year, that's the year that I used one of Larry's long glass pipes, and a 6-foot pipe, and I smoked it all down to a 3-inch pipe. Kept cracking on me, and I collapsed. My lungs burnt them up, and by the time I woke up in the hospital, I was dead. I was above my body, looking down, and I really haven't talked about this at all. It's not easy. there was a lot of little steps that really don't matter that got me there. But the important thing is, like, my mom got me into this hospital right down the street. We were living on La Brea and Sunset, and it was a little teeny place with probably 20 rooms, you know, and I had proper insurance, luckily. And the doctor, my dad's cancer was pretty blown away, you know, it was pretty bad at that time. He was still working, but he had tracheotomy. So I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want him to know. And I suspect, I guess I didn't know, but I was blocking out what was going on. And I was working 3-4 days straight. You know, I was just, and making money, you know, it was, and so I woke up in that hospital, and luckily I didn't die. They saved me. You know, I was on a big breathing machine for a good week. And then one day I woke up and there was these Colombian dudes there. And I owed them a lot of money. And let's just say, if those Filipino nurses weren't there, man, I would have been gone. You know, they came in with scalpels, you know, and they were like, "Get out." And they were like, "I don't know what you do," but they took me to another room, and then I had to leave. And I went away I just didn't go back to the studio for a long time. I forget, maybe 3 months. And then I started going back. I didn't see these guys at all. And by then, I guess 6 months later, crack had hit the streets. So I was lucky. If I had been doing this when crack was around, I would have been used that gasoline laced stuff and my brain would have been rotten. You know? But I was using ether. And anyways, these details, I hate talking this shit, but if it helps somebody else, you know, I made it through that stuff. And for me, that I hit such rock bottom, I was dead. So I never went back. You know, I can look at it. I can see somebody, I have no cravings. I do not care.
But you saw a lot of people destroyed by that, including a partner, right?
My first girlfriend, she's lost. My oldest son's mother, she was taken from us in a crack house in Oakland. And a lot of dear friends who worked with me, I've lost it. And a lot of the people I worked with who came out of prisons who relapsed and didn't make it, and a lot of them did. It was an upside, you know, Smiley, and oh my God, so many different characters, you know, I met while I was doing all these projects for the city and the metros. At the same time, I forgot to mention, I was working with at-risk youth. So anybody some people that have 10-year bids coming out of prison. So the city would supplement me with $22.50 an hour to hire these people to come work for me. And I worked through Venice Community Housing Corporation. We started a job training program there for just ceramics. We had the kilns in there. It was a really good time, you know. So
I've
always
got a sense from you, William, you always want to help people. You always want to inspire people, right? Even when you're just...
To my detriment.
Huh?
To my detriment.
How does art heal?
I can only say for me, like through this period right now, and it's been, I guess, how long have I been here? 2 weeks?
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks.
A little over 2 weeks. And I had I'm sober-ish, you know, but I've only had one drink since then. And I feel so centered. I feel so grateful and so blessed to be in a place where it offers like sanctuary. You know, I feel like I'm in, you know, when you put that shell to your ear and I'm coining and everything, but you know what I mean? You hear that when I walked into the first meeting, and I really didn't want to come here. I was just like, fuck, what are you talking about? You know?
You didn't. Well, tell us, someone, you did not want to be here.
And then
but I was wise enough to say, "I'll give you $100 if you come to the meeting." Yeah,
so I expressed it, and then there was I said, I want to go someplace. I can't sit in these meetings and hear any more dread stories and dreaded, and war stories, and everybody's trying to outdo them with their best story. And when I walked in the door, she said to me, she goes, "Look, I'll give you $100. Go." And they're sober, and they kept calling, and they were worried. And I guess I didn't really see it, but I was slipping, and so I came in the room, and it was like people were laughing, and most of the stories were uplifting, and not like the gory details, the gut and the bloods, but the scab and the wounds and the how I'm learning the tools, and I'm like, fucking tools to what? Tools to communication? And I never thought of it that way, but I use tools constantly. And so for me, art's through this period, I've been drawing. I mean, I send you drawings all the time. You ask me to write things out, and I'm not that good with writing things out. I'll write a poem and I'll send it to you, or a song. I'll play a song and record it. And I love the freedom in that, that approach that you have. You really, I don't know what I had. I thought it was like, there's going to be like chains in here. I'm gonna get locked to a bench. And like, when you said, do you want to stay here? And I'm like, oh shit. Do I get a key? Can I go outside? Will I see,
Yeah.
But it's not as tormenting. It's actually way easier. And for me, it's given me a breath of fresh air to think about, reflect back on my family and how I've dealt with relationships. And I have 7 beautiful children from 4 different beautiful women, and I haven't always been there. I am a number 1 workaholic, number 2 selfish workaholic, and number 3, I used to always say I'm an overachieving alcoholic.
Right.
But after a while, I'm 61 now, and after 40 years, I can feel my interest in everything was waning. I just was not interested in conversation with people, and I'm cynical, and I'd always have another conversation in my head while I'm talking to somebody, and it was starting to overlap into my family and not being as present for my kids. And now in the last 2 weeks, it's just been so, wow, amazing. My son just turned 21, Beta. And I was there at his birthday, and grandma's making Jello shots for him, and I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer, and
well, the kids are shocked.
Yeah,
they're just to see you not have a beer in your hand. They're shocked to see.
Yeah, my 13-year-old, he's just like, Dad, I've never not seen you with a beer in your hand. I was like, huh? And then I thought back of my dad, and he always had a rum and coke and a cigarette in his hands, and then I thought, wow, I really started partying when I was 13, like dabbing and stuff, and being interested, and I really, the main reason I decided to go full steam ahead is because I just want to make sure my kids see another side of me, I mean, they know the lovings, they know I care, they know all that stuff, but there's a lot of things that haven't been dealt with, and I don't want to see my kids. I always say, no matter what you do, just be you guys, don't be me. And I'll tell them a lot of my faults, but that doesn't work. You got to see it with action, and that's how I learned all my art skills, and was watching other people make art. And then I just go, it's like going in the gym. You got me a thing to go to Gold's Gym. I don't know how to work out, but I'm watching everybody, and I'll just copy what they're doing afterwards. And I realize it's not enough just to say it. It's in action.
It's an action program.
And that's what I like here too. It's like everything's action. What are you doing today? Where are you going?
Right.
And I'm like, the plan, I love when you and I go to a museum and we go have dinner and we talk in a different environment, and not just sitting here. I feel like, I'm talking to a shrink or something,
Mm-hmm.
It's like your ability to echo back and listen is truly a blessing, my friend.
Thank you, brother. What's it like to be in an environment where you're not judged?
I've never been judged, or at least, you see, okay, I've always been accepted as a wild man. So, it's just Attaway. You know what I mean? But I didn't realize, because now after you have one family, then you have another family, and then the old friends from that last family, they see their new family, and a lot of the time you lose friends, but I see that look in their eye, some people, and I let some people down, and I let myself down. And I there was a time where in Venice where we lost 50 people in one summer, you know, and I was teaching a lot of kids then. It was really rough. You know, I didn't want to tell you, I saw point blank one of my students do the worst thing he could ever do. And I was there when the police came and took him away too. The next day, I just on Rose riding down, and I see helicopters, and I see him getting out of the car with the gun that I saw him with last night in a plastic bag, putting it into a mailbox. And I rode by him. He's just looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm crying. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Wow.
And you know, it was, so I came home one night at 3 a.m. after that, and I got to my door, and all these gangsters in front of my house, and I put the key in, and I could just hear the bullets going around my head, just shut the door, laid on the ground, shaking, crying, you know, and I called American Airlines, and I went back to Barbados for a while, you know.
Oh, wow. It was that heavy, that hot.
I quit teaching. Yeah. Venice was that hot.
What year was this?
Fuck, man, this was the 90s. It was on San Juan. And I mean, these people, one couple, I was teaching this Ethiopian family's kids. I'd work with, through the Venice Arts Mecca, which is now the Venice Arts. We'd teach kids, you know, every weekend. There was an arts department, photography, painting. And, but this Ethiopian family had 2 houses on San Juan. And this is how bad it was. They took over the houses and they couldn't get them out, not even the police. So they came to me, said, we're going back to Ethiopia. We love what you're doing. Here's the deeds for the 2 houses. Yeah. And I'm looking at them, right? And I'm like, thank you. I don't know what to say. So I went over there, and it was so rough. I mean, it was bad. It was real bad.
In the 90s, for a period of time, Venice was the murder capital of the United States.
Okay, so this was 95, I'd say. Yeah. This was when it was happening, and I saw 3 in 2 weeks, and it was too close to home, and it was too close to my head.
Too funky, yeah.
And so I stopped working with the youth, because I started talking differently. You know, I had one student, you know, I had 20, at one time I had 40 kids in my class, because the poetry teacher came in crying because the kids had abused her so much. She had 20 kids. So for the summer, I had 40 kids. And in the corner of my eye, I could see this kid putting his gun signs and, you know, death signs behind my head. And I just whispered to him. I said, come here, man, come here. And in front of the whole 40 kids, I whispered in his ear, you fucking embarrass me in front of these kids. I'm going to bite your motherfucking ear off. And he jumped back. I said, I'll bite your motherfucking ear off. And he's like, oh, you crazy, you know? And I'm like, yeah. And then all the kids respected me after that. But I had to get really just, you know, it was hard to not be physical and angry, you know? It's like, you're getting $22.50 an hour. I'm doing this for free, and you're abusing me. Like, and they say, you stupid. And I'm starting to think I am stupid, but I made a lot of money this year. So I decided to give back after the uprising and what went down, you know, with Rodney King thing. And, you know, it was a rough time, intense. It's not what Venice is now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you wouldn't go on Abbot Kinney after 9 o'clock, mm-hmm. you know, and I would ride in the middle of the street, and that was me. Mm-hmm. You know, and I had a kiln that was 10 feet tall, 4 foot around. The kiln would go for 2 weeks straight. At the end of the firing for 2 days, I'm checking it every 2 hours. So I'm leaving my house on Rennie coming down the street. So what do all those sellers think I am? A tweaker, you know? The police think I'm a tweaker.
Yeah, right.
And so the police finally figured it out, but it was you were always nervous. You know, I always had 2 pit bulls with me, always had the bats ready, you know. You just watch your back.
Watch your back. And then how long, when you decided how long were you gone for?
After gone.
When you flew out and said, you called American Airlines.
I went for 3 months.
3 months.
I rented a little shack, and I just ate spirulina. I didn't drink. I just hung out with these Rastas and played drums, sat on the mm-hmm. beach, you know, and I didn't tell any stories. Just had to change my narrative. And I feel like that's what I'm doing right now, again, is changing. The most important thing is, you know, after a while, you start to acquire a story, and it gets good to you, and that stops you from growing, you know. And that's one thing I've learned here. It's like, I don't like my narrative. Mm-hmm. I'm changing it, and good. I'm retaking it back. You know, that old side of me that didn't ask for help and did everything itself, and it's dead. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's I'm not leaving any stone unturned. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do right now. I got 20 strong years of physical strength. I feel great now, but I want to do as much as I can while I got what I can going on.
Tell the gang about hipping us to the, forgive me, I always get the name when you go out to the beach and you make the little balls.
Oh, the sand balls.
Yeah.
The Instagram site is Sand Spheres. Yeah, I think it's gonna have to go with sand balls. It's easier to say. But I
Where did you learn that technique? And tell the folks
in Barbados. We didn't have any toy stores, like I was telling you. I mean, most of the kids didn't even have bathing suits. That's what I'm talking about. It was only boys on the beach on the weekdays, but we'd make little wars with those. And in Barbados, because of colonialism, there was cannons all around the island, and stacked up cannonballs, but were welded together. So I suspect it came from when the kids were playing on the beach, and way back, and they started making these sandballs. So we'd do it in one town. We draw a line and we make our little armory and dig a hole, and we just start throwing sandballs at each other. And so once we started, you told me that it's mandatory. You have to go to the beach and run.
Yeah, mandatory.
Yeah, I was just like, okay.
But dude, you fucking jumped right at it, man. You were there at 6:50, ready to roll.
Oh, I'm ready. Like, barefoot too, man. I'm ready.
Barefoot. I know. That's beautiful, man.
We did it as a kid, and I just remember the older kids, like these guys, really buff. They could do backflips, 2 backflips in a row. I mean, it was calisthenics workout every day on the beach for these poor kids. They were not poor. They'd eat well. We'd fish, we'd have breadfruit. We'd have all kinds of vegetables and stuff from the land. And but that's where we started making it. And they would work out with them and use them as weights and walk down the beach with their arms out. And it's like calisthenics, like I've seen them in gym. They have the handle on them, the balls, the kettlebells.
Right.
And so, and then we started doing that, and I said, I'm going to make some sandballs and stack them on the rocks down here like I used to in Barbados. And that led me to realizing that I haven't been playing, like even my art has gotten, lately I've been doing a lot of stuff for hotels and things I don't want to do, but it pays the bills, whatever. You got a 30-foot wall, you got a 10-foot wall. I win hotels. I'll do lampshades. That's what I've been doing. Lampshades for the Brat Pack room at the Wynn for the last 6 years, 500 at a time.
Wow.
Or 70 fish cut out of skateboards for another hotel. But stuff it's not playing, and when I really blossom is when I'm not working, I'm doing something I really love. And that's when it becomes playful. You become a kid, and the art of getting older is still being that inner child while knowing, the things that you shouldn't do. You learn from your mistakes, you get older, but you still got to be able to play, and I think that's the most important thing about art. And that has really, going down there every day has got me more interested in coming back and sitting at my table and drawing or presenting something for another project that's been due for a while,
Well, the thing that was so beautiful about that, I swim every day at the beach. I've been down there for the last, call it 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anybody do that. And what you do is you make these balls in the sand.
Yeah.
And then you roll them and you run a little bit and then you make them. It was a fucking unbelievable workout.
You take the wet sand. It's just like you take wet sand and you go to the drier sand and you just,
right.
You bounce it and it turns into, it's like making when you go to the snow, it's the same thing.
But it was hard to do. Those were the hell work. But the thing that so blew me away is, one, I got to see your inner child. It's free.
Exactly.
It's God's gym.
Yeah. Well, that was it. None of these kids had weights. So this is how everybody worked out. Yeah. That was it.
And let me just jump on that because I visited your studio.
Mm.
And when you see things that people don't see. You take your thing is, I mean, you get things out of garbage and you make beautiful art out of it, man. Talk about like some of the different things at your studio and pieces that you found and you make into. It's incredible.
I've been Venice, the turnover of brand new things and antiques that are left out on the street. You could find anything you want here. So the new studio, all the tables, everything in there pretty much I found on the street. Just put it in, except for the windows and the sink. But I started looking at these really beautiful chairs I'm seeing left out. And I was like, the feet of the chairs, I don't know if you look at old Victorian chairs, a lot of them are fashioned after animals' feet. And they look like paws or elbows. And so I started chopping them up and turned them into works of art that look like they have tails, and
they're incredibly beautiful pieces.
And they're pretty wild. And the funny thing is that I thought I was onto something new, and somebody who's an old Venetian historian told me that in the beginning there was a whole group of people that were making art out of chairs here in Venice. I want to find out more about that and who they were.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really trying to sell those. I've got a dining table I chopped up. I just got a grandfather clock.
I saw that. What are you going to do with that?
I think I have to leave it outside and let it age a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a weather, you know.
Got a weather, not quite ready for your magic.
It doesn't look like Father Time yet, you know.
Look at that. I want to talk some more about your artwork here. I would love to know, what was the first wall, canvas, or piece that really made you feel like an artist in Venice? What was that moment where you've like, fuck, I'm in?
My first big commission was for Dudley Moore, and I must have been 22, and that was at the same time I was taking care of my dad when he was dying from cancer. And we designed there was an architect involved who was a pain in the ass. This guy was just a prima donna. And, you know, I have the most beautiful job for you. You know, please don't talk to the owner. You know, this is between you and me. And of course, he was gouging me for money, you know. So it was Dudley Moore. And so I go down there and I'm like, Dudley Moore, oh my God.
And Dudley Moore at the time was the height of his fame.
Yeah.
Arthur had just come out. It was on.
Arthur, and I loved that movie. It was one of my favorite movies. I really identified, you know. So I did for his rooftop, I did a 10-foot table with a red and white table checker cloth and pizzas carved into it, whatever he wanted on there. There was a 20-foot shower for his son, which had tiles that were 1 inch by 1 inch that were little teeny waves. I made hand spigots for the sinks that were hands coming out, all the tile for his hot tub. But downstairs, we did this one installation, and it was like a 10 by 10 small bathroom wall. And I had done the sink, carved it out, and the spigots and everything. But the designer was really hardballing me, and he says, no, I'm not going to pay for an installer. You have to install it. I said, well, I've never done this. And he's like, you know, I just didn't know how to say no. So I said, well, I could do it. I didn't know you're supposed to do at the most 2 feet high at a time. So I decided to keep going. And then they were slipping, so I got wood and I shimmied everything in, and I made this. Did 10 by 10 wall, put it in there. And mind you, these tiles, some of them are 20 pounds a piece, you know, and they're thick. And
oh boy.
And everything's set up. I come out, ta-da, you know, I want my check. And I think it was $3,000. It was nothing. Yeah. I mean, you know, $20,000 wall, I was doing for $3,000. And Dudley's just like, marvelous. I said, well, you can't see it right now because it's got the paper, and I put wood up, but tomorrow we'll take it all off and I'll grout it. And he's cutting me the check, and the designer's there, and he's like, thank you, Bill. You know, I knew you could do it. And all of a sudden, and the whole wall drops, right? And
oh, fuck.
I'm pretty much crying. And I know my dad is dying. I got to get back to him. I got to go take care of him. I mean, I'm vacuuming like 4 inches of liquid out of his lungs through his tracheotomy pretty much every couple hours at that time. And leaving him alone used to scare me, because if he fell asleep, he couldn't do it himself, you know? And Dudley is laughing his ass off. He's just laughing. And Dudley goes, Bill, don't worry about it. And he's like, and the designer, you'll never work in this town again, young man. And I'm like crying, and I'm like, my dad's dying. I gotta go. I don't care. Fuck this job, And Dudley Moore is like, no. What did you just say to him? No. Do not talk to Bill that way. His father's dying, tell me more. And he goes, cut him another check. He said, and then he found out that I didn't know how to set tile. And I said, he made me do it. And he goes, you're covering that. And then we'll get somebody to teach him how to set tile. And that's how I really learned how. One of the guys on the site said, I can help him.
Shit.
Yeah. And Dudley, and then he goes, takes me to the side. Dudley was smoking a joint, he said, gives me and we have a glass of wine. He goes, tell me about your dad. And I said, I got to take him back to Barbados. Eventually when he dies, I want to take him back to Barbados. And he goes, when that time comes, I will pay for your flight and you can take his ashes back. Don't worry about it. Of course, my dad died and I had to remake the whole thing. So that takes 2 months. And my dad dies a week later. So
wow.
I go down there and I tell them I'm taking my dad's ashes back. I don't really know how I'm going to afford it. And Dudley just says, I told you I was going to, he gave me $4,000 and he says, take as long as you want. And the designer's sitting there just fuming. And the crazy thing is the designer died of AIDS the next year. It turned out he was angry all the time because he was sick and he wanted this job done so he could get paid. It was a lot of things.
Oh, wow.
It was sad. But I came back and Dudley, we did the whole thing, got it all set up. I did the rooftop tile. He loved that. And, I was doing the rooftop tile one night late, finishing up. Early in the morning, and I hear, turn around, and I look around, it's Robert Graham with a Magnum gun just pointed straight at me from across the building. And he's, what are you doing on Dudley's rooftop? I'm like, don't shoot.
Robert Graham, the great sculptor.
Yeah, he thought
pulls
I was
a gun on you.
Yeah, and I'm like, sir, eventually we became friends and he gave me all his clay when he passed away, and I have a sculpture done on that. But it's like Venice, I was very fortunate. Dudley, after I finished all that, he took me to 72 Market Street.
The famous, tell him that was incredible.
72 Market Street's a staple. So I got there and it was like Goldie Hawn and Barbara Streisand on the piano. And I'm shaking. I've never seen so many stars in one room. And Angelica Houston was there and Robert Graham. And I think Madonna was there. It was everybody.
A magical place.
I went to the bathroom and I walked out and never went back, and I didn't deal with him. I heard he died years later, broke, and one of his fans took care of him, Dudley Moore. He was the sweetest guy though, man. He was Brussels sprouts in the morning and eggs he'd make me. I'd be like, oh God, it was awful, but I'd eat them.
Bro's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like,
Brussels.
But then years later, it's crazy because 72 Market Street would become part of a fixture for me because like when I was working on the column on the boardwalk, I got it all done. And that was the place we'd meet up at the end of the day, and that's where I met Jack Hoffman and his
Great
place.
Jack, shout out to you. We love you, brother.
The king. I've been seeing him every morning on the beach when I'm down there making my sand.
What a special cat.
Balls. He's always been an inspiration to me. So I'd go in there and then a new group came in called the Globe. And they didn't know anything about me, but the guy, he's from New York. He walks down to my column and sees the column there. And he's like, this is incredible. I got to find this artist. The person next to him was the lead architect on the boardwalk. And he gave him my number from Globe Restaurant. And so he calls me and I go down to 72 Market again. And I'm like, Dudley's like calling me in here. It's like the spirits. And he's like, you can eat here. This guy was great. I made all the plates, the bowls, the paintings on the walls. I did these giant mosaic sculptures for the place. And that became my staple, that became, I take 20 of the poorest kids in Venice, sit them down on the big table and just feed them all steaks, go in the back and cook. It was like, I learned a lot in there,
Wow.
72 is still, it's not the same anymore, but it really was a special time there.
It was a special time.
Yeah, Howells and 72 Market Street.
Howells on Abbot Kinney. Talk about the sculpture, the legendary sculpture, and where can people go see it at?
The totem, I call it. It's a ceramic totem that's made on a pottery wheel. So it's 5 tons of clay, and it's stacked on top of each other with rebar and concrete on the inside. I call it dreams come true. I had a vision when I was a kid on the boardwalk in one of those altered states. There was like 4 bums around a trash can. There was no people sleeping down there. And they'd light a trash can on fire and keep warm. You know, it was a little safer then. And I told them, I'm going to build a big sculpture right over there. And this is 30 years before, you know. But that piece came together. I saw the RFQ that came out, and I decided to go for it. And by the time I had already been working with Venice Community Housing Corporation and Venice Arts Mecca, which is now Venice Arts, we had gotten a lease for the pavilion, and we had it for $1 a year. And we were going to do an arts program there, a job training thing, all that stuff, mosaic it all out, stage and theater. But because of the problems of getting across the boardwalk and bringing kids across there and the logistical stuff, they vetoed it. And the building was made of asbestos also. So they tore it all down. But through that, I met all the architects and the city people. And then I was on the inside track to get the boardwalk. And so when all the RFQs went out to apply for it, I had drawn all the outside drawings around the brochures to go out.
Wow.
And so when the time came to go into the meeting, which was crazy because I got there, a car broke down. I had to take a bus to get to Westchester. And I'm sitting there waiting, and a limousine pulls up. And I'm second to last. And the person gets out is Robert Graham. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm not going to get this job now, right? And he has no art with him, no paperwork, just a cigar. And he walks in there, and I'm like, oh, damn it. I got stacks of stuff I had to bring. I had miniature sculpture. I had a clay miniature of it. So you could really see what it looked like, detailed. And he went in there, and apparently he told him, he says, I love Robert, because he just told him, he says, I don't have to show you anything. I'm just going to make it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, fish is fucking
he was badass, man. And
he was a fucking badass.
I love him, man. I love him. But so I went in after that, and they were, the thing that these people didn't know, I had already worked with the city on helping plan a lot of things. So a lot
of them didn't know about your artwork.
So a lot of the images that were on the RFQ corresponded to my sculpture. And they were like, how could this, little do they know that I was already on the inside track, you know. Things were ordained, I think. The community, the Black community in Venice insisted that they have somebody of color do public art down there. So there was that entity that was involved, and real-time politics. That's how it works, baby.
Real-time politics.
You know, I'm a boll weevil, you know. Once I get in there, I'm going to eat my way out, you know. That's my, I go 300 miles per hour once I get started, you know. Yeah. That's why I'm glad to be here, man. I could feel like that was the spark when I was like, I just like, okay, this is action. I've been to a lot of meetings, and the flies are buzzing around, and half the crew is drunk, and it's all war stories, you know. That last meeting yesterday, we laughed
our ass off
the whole hour. I just couldn't believe it. And we talked about real things, you know. I usually open up, in airports or in other countries, with people who can't speak too good English. Yeah. And I'll spill my guts, Frenchmen who can't understand me, you know, or when I was drinking, I'd go to a bar and, you know, people forget, you know, but
people will forget.
And I'm realizing now it's like, there's not much time left. And I really want to have those conversations with my kids and my family and my friends, and to feel things again. I'm tired of being numb, you know, and in this climate of where we're going in our planet, and our lack of compassion, and our lack of, you know, our mean-spiritedness in this country right now, I definitely don't want to be on the side of that and being angry and bitter, and why, you know, I know why. It's because I just haven't been putting in the work. You know, I put in just enough work, but through our conversations, I come away with so much, and once again, I got to thank you, brother.
No, I know you thank me by how you live your life. Because basically what I just said in Seano language early on is, are you done? Are we ready to move on from this sad story?
Yeah, that's
in a very kind of poetic way that I can deliver it through God's grace. And I looked you straight in the eyes and I got a sense that you were.
Yeah.
And listen, people are going to be going, listen, okay, great. He's a couple weeks sober, check back in a month. Maybe you're great. So what do you want to say to somebody? No, the cravings early on. I mean, you fucking kicked here. You're a real alcoholic. Let's just be super clear. You're not a casual. You're a fucking stone cold alcoholic.
No, I can drink. Yeah.
You can fucking drink. So you detoxed here. You got, and I said, how's it feel to hold a paintbrush without the shakes?
It's very good. It's very good. It's usually it takes a couple hours in the morning to get your engine going. And I just built this new studio, and I'm fine when I'm just drinking beer, but I'll tell you, I started drinking some whiskey in the evenings, after working all day, and that hard alcohol I don't become a good person. I'm just hearing what I want to hear, but it feels good. It hasn't been easy, and it's still not easy. But I don't have that circle of thoughts in my head anymore. That's all changed. I'm not beating myself up over things that are sort of ineffable, that are really hard to articulate, and actually in some ways don't even need to be. That's my own private thing, that I just have to let go. It's done, and focus on the real time right now, because I find myself getting a little depressed.
Yeah. And
then I find it also, the other side of it is, I was like, wow, this is more fun than I thought it was going to be. We
have fun here.
Yeah.
We have fun here, brother.
We had a dinner party.
Sobriety is fun.
Yeah. And that part, I always thought well, how am I going to have fun? And I realized, I went to opening the other day, and I've done stuff. I had a dinner party with a few friends, and it was just, wow. It was amazing how I cleaned the dishes afterwards. I brushed my teeth, and not like I don't, but it's like I took my time. I was really present, just putting the socks away, and before I just throw stuff over there and go straight to the drawing table, and then you always have a pile to clean up, and with artwork, I'm very structured with my artwork. So I that takes precedence over everything, and I realized that if I don't do the other stuff, the artwork, when I get the rest of the house clean, the artwork looks better. It's all balance, art is really hard, because you get one stroke and the whole thing's fucked up. And you got to start again, and that's life, and I know I'm going to have to go through a lot, and I don't really give a fuck what people think. I've already been judged, and my kids are cool with me. My exes are cool with me, and the friends who know me, I try not to burn bridges, but I'm definitely not trying to go hang out with people who don't want to hang out with me.
Amen.
I'm not here to please anymore. My studio used to be open 24 hours a day. People could just walk in. It was like I was like in a zoo. Come see the artists, and there was a part of that theatrical part with me, and sometimes the band would be playing, or I'd be making giant pots, and you could come help, whatever. It was just always going on, and now I love my privacy, and I love being alone and taking my time, and gathering in these groups and sharing so much stuff. I feel complete. I don't have to go out and, I even call my friends are calling me. How you doing? What's going on? You want to talk? I'm like, not really. How are you doing? I'm more interested in what.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah. Cause I have been talking about myself for a long time now. Since I lost the studio, that was my identity. And it really was. I'd run to the studio in the morning, 5
Well,
a.m.
you had the studio for
37 years.
right. And then last Tuesday,
Oh, Jesus.
unbeknownst to you.
Yeah. Well, I left here. We did a session. We talked.
Yeah, we had our session
and
Tuesday.
It was great. And then I rode down Shell, and I realized my first studio where I hit rock bottom is right down here on Shell and Millwood. And I've been passing it. I haven't thought of it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go see the old, 334 Sunset. And now there's this beautiful studio there. And I mean, it's immaculate. And I always wanted to go in there, and then there's a guy at the door. I'm like, where do I know this guy? And he's one of the
Shell crew.
One of the Shell crew. He's like, Attaway, come on in. I said, this is your place? And he goes, and I thought he said yes, but it wasn't his. And then he goes, well, if you want to look around, go upstairs, yeah, come on up. So I go upstairs, and there's a circle of guys, and it's another offshoot of Shell, the SLA meeting, and I'm like, oh, God damn it. I can't get away from these motherfuckers.
We're everywhere, brother.
These mother lovers. And so I sat down. So that was like 2 hours that day. I'm being cornered by, and at the same time, most of my dearest friends that I hang out with now or stay at their houses are all, sober, which is interesting.
Yeah. So one of our beloved members, brother Tim Case, I'm going to give you a shout out, has a company called Supply and Demand. And I helped him buy that place, convinced him that that's a mecca over there. There's an energy there and needs to be around there. And ironically, I had no idea of your backstory being in that space. Your space originated out of healing, grace, and art, and it's still being continued just in a different fashion. And now you were there for a 12-step meeting to heal.
Yeah, it was
pretty powerful,
it was
man.
wild, and got to look around the place and brought back, some tears,
I bet. A lot of history, man.
A lot of history. I made children there, and
Yeah, a lot of things are made there.
That was crazy.
Let me just drop in on something too that I always believe in, and you've exemplified this, Then I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions, then I'll leave you alone for the rest of this beautiful Sunday.
Okay.
I always tell people, if you do the right thing, if you get sober, you find a higher power that works for you, you clean your side of the street up, you make amends to people where you make amends, and then you have to help people. You got to help people stay, right?
Yeah.
I've watched you do all the above. When you came here, money was tight. A lot of shit was fucked up. And even in a short period of time, I think actually we're coming up on 3 weeks now. Okay. People are noticing your energy. You sold some artwork. You got your bills paid. We were able to get groceries.
Yeah. I had clients coming from France. I've had my dear friend Cece Pounder, the actress, came through, and she supported me and her foundation, and John and Angela Witherspoon and their foundation came through and helped me out. Out of the blue, yesterday I went and bid some incredible jobs in Point Doom, massive jobs. And that all came through Shell, actually.
That, man.
Yeah. So it's moving very fast, and I'm ready to work. Yeah,
you are.
I'm in the process of the city and we're doing a restoration on the totem on the boardwalk, Dreams Come True. And what's going to happen is it's like the Watts Towers. It's falling apart because of the rusting of the rebar. So I have to take some of the tile off and redo that. So that's going to start hopefully in the next 3 months. And be ready for the Olympics when they come, get all that done. So there's that was another reason I really needed to, I go into those meetings sharp. I don't play around when it comes to business, but it physically, it's going to be a lot to get up and down on the 25-foot column and the scaffolding, and it's physical work, working in ceramics and setting mosaics and doing tile work, and that's the part of my body, man. I'm way more fit in 3 weeks. I am, I can't wait to go running in the morning right now.
Right?
Yeah, baby.
Especially with your new shoes.
I got the new shoes.
Got the new kicks, got the Hoyas.
I got a different kind of hookah.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to do some rapid fire questions. You up for it?
I got it.
You ready, brother? Okay. Venice sunrise or Venice sunset?
Sunrise.
Clay, paint, or mural, what's your first love?
Wow, I see them all as one. Clay, paint, or mural. Well, I think, painting.
Painting. All right. One word that describes Venice Beach.
She'll give you what you want, but careful what you ask for.
Amen. A color that heals you.
Bright, bright light.
First artist that ever fucking blew your mind.
Vasarely, and then Picasso. Because Picasso did ceramics and so many different things, and then to see how his work changed. Yeah, I would say that. I'm sure I'm going to think of somebody else.
It's okay, buddy. That's how I just top it. We're just having fun. If your art had a soundtrack, what song would it be?
I just keep hearing Purple Haze.
Purple Haze? All right.
All in my mind.
All right. Who in history would you most want to collaborate with?
Who in history would I most?
If you could get down, make clay, paint, who would you want to just fucking be side by side with?
I think if it was clay, if it was mosaics, I'd want to be around Gaudi. If it was painting, I would, it would have to be like, who's the cat who painted Mona Lisa? What's his name again? He did so many different things. No, Da Vinci. Yeah. How can I not? Yeah, Da Vinci, because he was like everything, scientist, like if anybody, it would be Da Vinci. I think, that's probably my favorite artist too, not because of the Mona Lisa. I don't like that painting, but it's because of his things that move and all the mechanical stuff and the way he used wood and inventions that he did. They're all artistically done, that.
Right on. All right. What's your personal definition of beauty?
Balance.
Fill in the blank. Art is
everlasting.
Right on. Final thoughts to the audience? Anything else you want to say to your family, to your fans, to, somebody struggling right now?
Yeah, if you're struggling, man, fuck it. It's easy. Don't struggle anymore. Just give in. Just say yes. I know it's easy to say, but the quicker you try, the quicker you're there. And to my family, no matter what you do, just be fucking you, okay? Don't be me. No, I love my family so much. I have 7 beautiful kids, 6 boys and 1 girl. My young kids are 13, 11, and 9 years old, and they're amazing. And I just want them to have a free path, far from what I went through, but with all the joy and creation and accolade and in doing whatever they love to do. I want them to do it with as much passion as I've done, but definitely, take the Claro path, take that Claro, because it's an easier path. And they're my kids are very aware.
Special.
Yeah, they're very special. But I regret not, I spent a lot of time at the studio. My older kids really missed out on me a lot. And so do my younger kids. And, I'm working to be financially secure so I can actually be around a lot more. And it's not easy when families are on different states and, in different, oh my God, this is the hardest. See, this is the hardest part for me. You're cutting this part out, right? Okay. If I just want my kids to know how much I love them. And really what I'm doing, this is for them as much for me. I want to be on this planet for as long as I can, and to watch them grow, to watch them go through their struggles and achievements and be there to help them on in any way I can. And to be an incredible man, to take care of everything around me to the best of my abilities, to open that door, and I enjoy creating, and I know people enjoy what I create.
Amen.
And I am so blessed to have a calling. I don't take it lightly.
I know you don't.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're not going to cut that.
I don't.
Because it's beautiful. No, and it's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to watch you do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to be there.
It's there.
And we'll close with this, brother. You've had a lot of angels in your life. And one of the angels, I just want to say to Jamie and Penny Helwig out of Dallas, Texas, who are kind enough to see something in you and made it possible for you to stay here and get all the great help you're having. So Jamie and Penny, thank you for that gift.
Yes, Jenny and Penny, thank you so much. It was great to talk to you the other day. And wow, I don't know what to say, but I'm going to show you.
Yeah. And, you're very gracious in thanking me, but I want to thank you because what you've brought to Shell, the energy that you're bringing around here, the creativity, the people that are learning from you about art and the different things, but to have your family out in the back while you're cooking them one of your dinners, that's why I'm a billionaire.
That
to
was
have
special,
your family
man.
back here at Shell is the best gift in the world. And then people are realizing you're a great cook and sniffing around. We had some pretty interesting cats
making
here Wednesday
some
night.
Oxtail up there.
You're making your oxtail. So, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for your trust and your faith and allowing me to witness greatness in real time.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
I wanted to add something. When I was on the beach this morning and I'm making the sandballs and this young kid comes up to me. He says, I was at the meeting the other night. And I was like, what's your name? I've forgotten his name. I apologize, brother. But I taught him how to make sandballs this morning. And it was pretty cool. He was like, this is a workout. And I was like, yeah, it's a little bit of a workout. But the connections are everything, really.
Connection, community.
Yeah, connections, community.
You got a real community,
and
real
contribution.
Connection. Right.
What are you going to contribute, and how are you going to contribute? Here. And my family's always been about that, and that's what Venice is. Venice has always been about taking care of other people. I mean, we are really, if you think about it, skateboarding, art. We really kicked off, a lot of things, acting, music. Everyone comes through here to be inspired, to vortex here. And that's why I say be careful what you wish for in Venice, because it'll give you all of it and a little bit more. So check your score, baby.
Check your score. Amen. Thank you, brother.
Messiah. Thank you. Venice, peace sign, baby.
The Seano Show is a production of iHeart Podcasts, hosted by me, Seano McFarland. Produced by Pod People and 28th Ave. Our lead producer is Keith Cornelek. Our executive producer is Lindsay Hoffman. Marketing lead is Ashley Weaver. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.